Board into session. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda.
So moved, with the additional HR addendums.
It's been moved to accept the agenda with the HR addendum. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries. And just for those that are here at the table, Christy is online with us. Not sure if Jennifer is joining us in progress or not, but we'll see as the night goes on. Gets us to agenda item 3, strategic plan and action, celebrating our successes. I think we're going to learn a little bit about math.
With our elementary math, and they are here to talk about AVMR. We like acronyms in education. It's Advantage Math Recovery, and they both serve unique roles, but they serve the same population. So I will turn it over to these ladies.
He told me. I practiced. Didn't stick, Kirby, sorry. We're happy to have the opportunity to share something about which we're very passionate and spend a great deal of our time working with. So, we both are elementary math facilitators for the district. We are trained, specifically trained in Advantage Math Recovery and Math Recovery Intervention programs, and our trainers in the district with that and support that. We're going to give you just a really quick overview of what math recovery programs are and what they are not, and you'll hear that from the words of the current CEO of the U.S. Math Recovery Council, and then we'll give you a little bit of a history of math recovery programs in Fargo schools, what we're seeing in terms of data with both teachers and students in these programs, and then just a quick what's coming next, what are our next steps. So a quote that really speaks to this is at the heart of all good education, where the teacher asks students to think and engages them in encouraging dialogues, constantly checking understanding and growth. And that's a quote from William Glasser. We'll go now to the quick introduction of what is math recovery and what are these programs all about.
What is math recovery in AVMR? It may be easier to tell you what it isn't. It's not a curriculum. It's not a kit of activities. It's not an add-on program that is something else you have to do. So what is it then? Number 1, it is a professional development program. We are undertaking an intensive study of the teaching and learning of mathematics. The Math Recovery AVMR programs have strong research underpinnings and continue to evolve with ongoing research. We are working on what is between our ears. We do know that one of the top indicators of student achievement is the strength of their teacher. Number 2, it is an assessment program. In this way, we can then build from the students' ways of knowing. It is hard to talk about teaching without talking about assessment, so we never get too far from assessment. The bottom line is, if we know what a student is thinking, it helps us teach them. The more we know about a child's current level of understanding, the better we're able to target intervention and the more learning that is likely to occur. It is the belief within math recovery programs that video-recorded one-on-one assessments allow teachers to learn as much as possible about a student's current number knowledge and strategies. We make it our business to figure out what the student is thinking. Number 3, it is instructional strategies. Math recovery AVMR teaching is about having the right thing for the right student at the right time, and it supports the teacher in being a good consumer of other mathematics resources. Math Recovery AVMR is a way of thinking and doing business. It maintains a focus on helping each student advance their thinking and includes potentially powerful and very specific pedagogical tools for assessment and teaching. The Math Recovery AVMR programs are grounded by a compilation of research. They help us anticipate the next new learning that is likely for that student, thereby informing our instruction. The LIFN helps us in developing our pedagogical content knowledge and pedagogical awareness. For example, given a number task to consider for instruction, the teacher can think about a range of potential student solution methods, judge the significance of a particular method, and understand the relative sophistication of various strategies. Then consider what this means in terms of the way forward in instruction. What does it look like to do math recovery AVMR? Well, first we take a topic in number learning and think hard about it. We reflect on what we know from our own experiences. We then watch students to see how they are interacting with content. Third, we look at what research has to say, and then finally we consider the implications of all of this for our teaching.
In a nutshell, that is what math recovery is all about in math recovery programs. Alyssa's going to talk to you about what math recovery might look like if you walk into a classroom in Fargo schools.
And I'll talk to you a little bit, but you'll see it in action. So this is really what you might see walking into a classroom with an AVMR, or math recovery trained teacher in FPS. And what you're going to see here is a small group table filled with kids meeting, their targeted instruction around their current need and what they truly need right now. And then all the other kids, and you'll see the kindergartners working beyond the table too. They're engaged in meaningful math activities, whether it's to reinforce math understandings and skills or to extend what we've been.
20,
22, 23,
24,
25, 26, 27,
28.
29, 30,
What would come after 30, I wonder?
40.
Nicely done. Okay. So you are able to count. I heard you count. You can do that easily, can't you? You can count and count and count. But now we need to work on that number that comes right.
After.
Ooh, you remember that word? The number word after. So I have some numbers here.
That's a lot.
Starting with,
11,
let's
12,
go. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17,
18, 19, 20.
What we are going to do today is really focus on knowing the number that comes right after another number. Listen.
My number.
Okay.
This is
So if I say, what comes right after 14?
here.
Focus please on here. What comes right after 14? What are you going to say?
15.
15. What if I say, what comes right after your number 19? What are you going to say? 20. But I'm not going to leave these numbers out there for you. Let's hide them. Ready?
This is good.
Have you seen these numeral tracks before?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's our numbers, right? Here's our track. But let's cover them up. Can you two cover these? We'll cover these. Can you flip those down? Yep, let her do some. Go ahead and cover them. Okay. I wonder if we can figure out what's underneath here. If we start here, what number is this? 11. I wonder if we can count. Ready?
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Let's see if we made it. We did it.
Good job.
So
Okay.
now, what if I open this 14? What do you think comes right here?
15.
How did you figure that out?
16.
Hold on a minute. How did you know?
Because after 14 is 15.
Check it and see.
Good job.
All right, Haley.
So that's what classrooms, and as I said, we're passionate about this and we have about 4.5 minutes. So we will probably flip through some of these slides, but I believe that this will be available to you if you want to take more time with it. But we started with AVMR, Advantage Math Recovery, which is designed for classroom teachers, and trained about 30. We trained Title I math teachers and some support people in their building in 2011. And then I was trained as math recovery intervention specialist and an AVMR champion to train here in the district. And that was really At that time, you know, Rachel and I had gone over to Moorhead, sat down and talked with Vicki Brenneman over there, and just heard what they were doing with it and what successes they were finding. So from that time, we came back and trained kindergarten and second grade teachers, and I was trained as math recovery intervention specialist leader, so we could bring that MRIS training to the buildings, and that person really supports all teachers who are trained in AVMR in the building. What are teachers saying about training?
So in the entry video, it talked about, this is all about teacher knowledge, so we want to know what they're thinking about it. So how would you rate your knowledge of how children make sense of early mathematics? So on the left, they ranked a 4 or 5, so on the higher end, for training. So they were after the 4-day intensive training. How secure are you in using questioning techniques to gain insight into student understanding of math concepts? Because it is a lot about understanding what they're thinking. So we have to question our kids. So once again, on the left, you can see for training what they felt, and this was just a class of training. And then on the right, after that 4 days, how they felt. And then how do their current materials, so before AVMR training, for differentiating instruction, so how do they feel about that and how? Left, only 3.
How has your participation in this class impacted how you think about the learning of mathematics?
I'm not going to read this all to you, but just I'll read one of them. I now understand why students are struggling and how to help fill in the gaps.
How will your classroom practices change as a result?
So I differentiate in math for my students. Now I can truly get to the core of their difficulties and work from there.
How will your learning have an impact on student achievement?
I'll be able to meet the students where they are and help develop their areas of weakness.
How would you describe this course to another teacher who wants to know what it's all about?
This course is an intense 4-day training that will not allow you to be left in the dust. With interactive case studies and interesting games, teachers who leave this course will have a better understanding of how the mathematical brain develops in adolescence. This is truly on their reflections. So how does this class rate in relation to others you have taken as an educator, knowing that we take many, many courses? Least effective is a 1, most effective is a 5. And you can see right there, where they rated themselves, or where they rated this course.
Going back to where we are, and here we're going to really fast forward. One of the things that we have done is we have focus buildings now who really focus on direction. And those focus buildings, we work with them to make agreements about what their training is going to look like. The money comes partially from district and partially from buildings. Sometimes PTAs have supported the teacher kits as well. So all of our K through 2 teachers are trained in course 1 throughout the district, but when a focus building makes that decision, their 3rd through 5th grade teachers are also trained, along with some of their special ed teachers and their gifted and talented teachers. And 1st and 2nd grade teachers are trained in course 2. This is just a look at the building and district commitments that we sit down and go through together before those decisions are made. And a support document, just what does math look like? We currently, so we've continued to add focus buildings and continue that training. We currently have 8 buildings who are focus buildings, so Alyssa and I spend a majority of our time out there with those teachers and with the leadership in those buildings, supporting them, and also designing support pieces that they can use on their own.
And quickly, a few of those support pieces that we have found to really meet the needs of our teachers, to meet the needs of their students. We've created a video bank, so we'll go in, like you just saw a piece of it to start off with. We'll go in for now to create that video bank and get into classrooms, videotape it, and we post it on the employee portal, so then teachers can go in and see what classroom instruction might look like or sound like if they're wondering. We also have progress monitoring sheets, so then they can really document the progress of their students based on the learning targets, and we have created learning targets to fit with this too. Targeted instruction exactly with what the kids are needing at that time.
This is one of the most recent pieces. We also are working really hard with data. And so what is the data telling us about the training and the results with students, the impact on students? So really helping teachers to see, in terms of their progress reports, where is AVMR in our standards? It is the reason that we are really involved in AVMR programs is because of our standards and how those programs support teachers to more fully support students in their progress toward proficiency. So just looking at a few pieces of data and then we'll wrap up. But this is Jefferson 5th grade. Structuring is an area that's most closely tied to addition and subtraction facts, and that has been a real problem in the 32 years that I've been in the district, so nothing new, but now we have some new information about how to help kids. So the fall of 2016, 20.8 students were at a 4 or 5. We would expect 5th graders to enter at a 5.
And then comparing to fall of 2018, now the current incoming 5th graders, these are the 4s and 5s. I should have done that math really quickly before we came. About 60.
It's higher.
Right? It's higher, about 60%.
And they've been a focus building for a couple of years, so. Clapp has been a focus building for 3 years, and their 5th grade, this is 2015-16, that entrance year to the following year, you see that 22 of the students in that 5th grade cohort were at a level 5, 31 between 4 and 5 in the fall. Winter.
And then compared with last year's winter, 39 were at a 5.
So come into that. And MAP, which is probably more familiar to people in the room now, you can see that the emphasis that Clapp teachers are placing on AVMR programs is also supporting an upward trend in MAP, and we would expect also their state standards, keeping in mind that all of this has happened along with that switch to more rigorous standards.
One of our last pieces here, just some next steps. What are we planning to have happen? So we're going to continue this training with our K-2 teachers, the new ones, in AVMR Course 1, and then continue training the Math Recovery Intervention Specialists, hopefully to have one per building to support that teacher in needing instruction or needing help figuring out to target that instruction too. So then ongoing support to current focus buildings. So like Lori said, we have 8. So we do spend most of our time there. So continuing to provide that, whether it's in their PLCs or individual teachers, or like today we spent a full day in a building coaching teachers side by side, team teaching with them, a small group of students. Having data-driven conversations with buildings. What are they seeing with their data? How can we help support that with this understanding about math education? And then use our district math data to determine areas of support for students and teachers. So what else can we do to help support this so our students are succeeding?
We appreciate that Fargo Public Schools is dedicated to empowering all students to succeed. And one of the most effective ways to do this is through continuous and effective research-based professional development for teachers, which is what math recovery programs provide. Thank you for your time and your tolerance. If there are any questions, we're willing to take some now, and certainly we could talk your ear off. So if you want to give us a call or stop over sometime, we'd be happy to talk with you.
John?
So just so I'm sure I'm understanding this is not the curriculum. This is a way to think about teaching the curriculum, and methods to teach the curriculum. Okay.
Exactly.
And so this would be, the teacher would have these skills and tools to deliver to all of the students in the classroom, not any particular student that's indicating any particular need.
No, it works, they use that knowledge to meet the needs of students at tiers 1, 2, and 3.
Okay,
And very effectively with their highest students.
excellent. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and keep up the good work. 8 focus buildings, we might as well get to 16. That gets us to our next agenda item, which is a report from the Fargo Public Schools Development Foundation. And Becky is here to share some words with us, and I think there was a report actually at your workstation as well when you got here this evening.
Yes, there is. It's a lot of blue on that. That looks really blue from here. Thank you very much for having me this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about some of the things the foundation has been up to in the past school year and what we're doing right now as well. We're going to start out with innovative education grant projects, which I think math recovery, we have an innovative grant round coming up that's due February 1st, so that might be an opportunity to get some funding to help with that, something they might want to consider. But in the past school year, we were able to fund 44 innovative education grants totaling over $46,000. And they ranged from everything from career development. A lot of grants help support innovative STEAM activities, and we also supported literary education grants. We also worked with the district to secure some grant dollars also for some STEAM projects through the Xcel Energy Foundation and the Verizon Foundation. That was totaling $6,000. I believe that helped with codable coding and some other STEAM projects to help supplement that. Another big project or program that we work with is the Critical Needs Program. We're doing a little reconfiguring of this program and putting a wide variety of things under its umbrella. It really secures a lot of need for children and families in our school district. It was developed to help ensure that each and every student who needs help with critical needs receives that support. And what it does is it funds critical needs dollars to all 23 schools each semester. It also supports the Got No Milk program, the homeless program, emergency lunch needs, food pantries, hybrid food pantries in all 4 high schools, as well as Liz's Closet, which supplies our smaller food pantries that supply for all 3 middle schools. Just recently, during this school year, we were fortunate enough to secure a grant from the Walmart Foundation statewide grant for $25,000, which we were very glad and surprised to receive because it's not often you get a grant like that from Walmart. What that will do is provide $4,000 for each high school food pantry and $3,000 for each middle school pantry. It's a great impact on all those pantries, and we'll do a lot of really supplement what they're already doing and increase their capacity to help kids in the schools. I think a secondary outcome from this grant is we were able to connect more with the Great Plains Food Bank, who has a high school food pantry program, and help connect with schools that aren't already utilizing that. And it's really a great way to get lots of product for pennies on the pound to the schools that have the pantries. And we were able to help connect that and help those schools that haven't been able to participate get that done. So we'll continue to do that and make it as seamless as possible for those schools who want to utilize that program. Last May, we also were awarded 100 scholarships for seniors at Fargo Public Schools. Over 100 scholarships for about $89,000. Those funds come from established endowment funds, from annual scholarship funds, and from the Dollars for Scholars program. Despite obviously the monetary value is important to help fund their education, I also think it goes a long way to giving them confidence that we have confidence in them to go on to the next level and continue their education. We continue to oversee the Adopt-a-School program. Currently, we have 23 Adopt-a-School partners. This program brings business employees and community organization members into the schools to assist with everything from, a whole bunch of stuff, reading programs, tutoring, career awareness, presentations. They have special events. They do mentoring, extracurricular clubs, joint community service projects, field trips, and just a whole host of other activities. They're very busy, and to date, there's over 350 volunteers helping with upwards of 5,700 volunteer hours. That's self-reported from the schools and the partners. We all know that the more caring adults we have in kids' lives, the more successful they're going to be, and I think this goes a long way to help with that. We continue to operate the Fargo Schools Alumni Network. We're providing resources to alumni organizers. We also help publish a alumni newsletter and then promote those reunions in our website, social media sites to make sure that they can reach out to as many people that are around as possible. And it helps us connect what's happening currently in the school district, and we publish things about successes that alumni are having out in the community. One last thing happening right now, we're fortunate again to participate in Giving Hearts Day, which is on February 8th this year. This is one of the region's largest online, and you can donate by check, giving days really in the upper Midwest. This year, we've really been fortunate to secure some extra match that we were surprised by. The Dakota Medical Foundation, Rob and Leanne Jordahl Family Giving Fund, is going to provide us with $30,000 match for the Critical Needs Program. So if we're able to match that, we'll raise $60,000 for that program. We also have $11,000 for the Got No Milk program from Haley's Milk Run, and another $1,000 from Dakota Medical Foundation to support the Critical Needs and Milk Fund. It's a big opportunity for us. It's the most match we've ever had. So hopefully at the end of the day, we'll have raised $84,000 with the match, and that will go a long ways to really keep that Critical Needs Fund strong. I appreciate the opportunity tonight. I truly think that together, working with you, we make a big impact on the children and families in our district. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Jeff?
No questions, just a couple of comments. I can't let this go by since this will be my last report that you do to the board. But one of the things that I've said all along over the 6 years that I've been sitting in this seat is that we need to have a strong foundation. And what I've seen Becky do in the last 3 years is really take this to the next step. And it continues to grow, and it's getting bigger and better. And the things that you're able to do for our students, a direct impact back into our schools is really starting to gain some momentum. And so I would encourage board members or other people that if you have somebody approach you with an idea or want to give or those types of things, get them to Becky, because this is where it should sit. The endowments and all the different types of things that we start to set up that then have a place that is nested for the future. And they can manage that for them, and we can distribute those dollars, or we can take those dollars and do the right things with them. So I'm really, really pleased about the critical needs. And the one thing that I'm really happy about is the serving quietly, supporting quietly, and helping gently and quietly. Yeah. I think that's what it's all about, is that this isn't, this big flashy thing out there. It's about how do we just quietly take care of the needs that we have for the families that have those needs. And so kudos to you and your other assistant. I mean, there's just two of you. I sit on your board and I sit at your meetings, and I'm just consistently impressed with how this started as a milk carton program in the Fargo Public Schools with a little tiny cubicle upstairs, and is now grown into what I would consider a foundation.
Thank you very much.
So I just keep up the good work, because, over the years, hopefully this continues to grow and be just as strong as ever. So thank you for everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
John?
I am just so impressed by this, and thank you very much for your work you do for our public schools here in the foundation. What we see happening with the Critical Needs Program is just incredible. But I also I think this Innovative Education and Literacy Grants is really neat and really maybe undervalued and important. When you go to the open house that you have every fall, you see the teachers there kind of doing a show and tell with what they've done with these things. And these are almost like pre-seed programs. I have kind of a little crazy idea. Let's see what happens with it in my classroom. Maybe it's a huge failure and it didn't really work. We're never going to do that again. Or it's, we started this and now maybe we have something here, and it can be done with just sometimes, $500 is a huge amount of money for these sorts of things.
Absolutely.
You get these awesome programs, and I love that we're able to do that. We hear so much about innovation in schools, and boy, right here is where I think that really can begin, and I would love that we have this capability in our district, so thanks for that.
We have a great grant review committee that really, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the district for the help that Jodelle Tyken provides with her team. Also looking over the grants along with the grant review committee, really making sure that those grants are where they're supposed to be. And if there's, sometimes we find out that they do have a source of funding at the district, so we're able to supplement something else in that grant or fund another grant. So it's a great partnership between the district and the foundation to make sure that those dollars are really getting spent well and used in a good manner.
Well, Becky, on behalf of the board, I do want to thank you, but I just want to make sure of one thing that I heard and get it correct in case any of the viewers at home were curious. I believe we're looking for about $40,000 on Giving Hearts Day so we can take advantage of matching dollars that have been put out there, $30,000 towards the Critical Needs Program.
That is correct.
So on February 8th or beforehand, if people would like to make a targeted donation to Fargo Public Schools Foundation for the Critical Needs Program, it will help us double those dollars to the tune of $30,000 of matching dollars. Am I correct there?
That is correct. There's $30,000 available for the Critical Needs Program that they will provide for us should we meet that match.
Super.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I heard that right.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right.
That gets us to recognition of the audience, and nobody had signed up, and I look out at the audience, and I actually know everybody in it, so I think I'm in good shape thinking that nobody didn't know to sign up. So we'll move on to staff reports. Laura, anything from the FEA world?
I would like you to wave at our friend Connie Deutsch. She's on the executive board. In fact, she's an officer. She is our secretary. She works here in the DIR, Instructional Resources.
Thank you. That gets us to our second staff report. I'd reference you on over to memo number 65, just the consolidated report from our focus group work earlier this year. And I think Dr. Gross has got some overview for us.
I do. Thank you very much. What we have done for you is the teaching and learning group took some time to look through all of the comments, both written and some of the questions that came out of that focus group that happened on November 2nd. We had about 161 individuals who came to the focus group meetings and also the State of the School meeting. We started the day with a presentation by Dr. Schatz giving us the state of the schools, the state of the district, and then we followed it up with presentations from some of our facilitators and teachers as it came to some of the areas that teaching and learning is really working on. And that would be the use of technology in the classroom, career and technical education, 21st century skills, and then just as we look at project-based learning. As we finished the presentations, everyone went to breakout rooms, and for each of those different sections, we asked basically the same two questions. One is, how important is that topic to the students of the Fargo Public Schools? And two, what advice would you have for the Fargo schools as we continue down the path on some of these critical initiatives? So in your report, starting on page 2, what you'll see are some themes that we were able to pull out from that data. As we look at project-based learning, really as the groups of individuals talked about their importance, we heard things around it is certainly important, especially as we look at how things are applicable to lifelong learning outside the classroom, and the push and the need for us to continue that. But then how do we continue to make those questions, those projects, as relevant as possible? And as we talked about that in our team, we said really that's part of the heart of our professional development. So as we continue moving forward, we'll use that feedback from those focus groups on that. Another piece that came out of the project-based learning was really around measurement and grading. And it was more some questions that our community members asked us. How are projects graded? What type of feedback should be expected? All great questions. And as we look at what we can do with that feedback, we see that as great opportunities for different communication pieces. If that is in Journey or School Talk, and even the classroom teachers as they are putting together those projects. So we will continue to work on things like that. And then the last piece around project-based learning really was, what is the long-range plan for that? Currently, we encourage, and we highly encourage all teachers across the system to include project-based learning in their classroom. It is not a requirement, which was interesting because if you look at that and then the first theme that we found when it came to advice for the Fargo Public Schools, there was some questions or the theme around equity and consistency. So that also was woven into that. So we need to have those conversations in our curriculum review cycle and how we look to update and refresh what we're doing in the different courses. How can we incorporate project-based learning into that? And then how can we, when we look at our standards, talk about how do we ask students to really demonstrate their knowledge of those standards in a real-world application. So great feedback for us in teaching and learning. The next theme or topic was around technology. And what we heard over and over again, or what we saw in the feedback, was it certainly is essential for our students now and into the future that they have the opportunity to get immersed and learn different technology. Although we did hear from a theme, there is some inconsistency in integration across our system. So we need to hear that, and we need to use that feedback when we have our tech coaches in the different buildings work with staff. Again, through the curriculum review process, how do we embed the use of technology so that it's meaningful for our students? But then also, how do we help all stakeholders, past our students, keep current with what's out there? And I think that was a great piece, a wonderful communication piece as we talk about, here are some of the tools that we're using. How do we communicate that with the stakeholders so they know what their sons and daughters are using in the classrooms? So again, as we look at Journey and School Talk and other pieces of information, that's how we will look to answer that. When we asked about what should we do or what advice when it came to technology, again, a similar theme of not only do the students need to keep up to date, but so do parents and community members about what we're doing, so communication. But then the theme centered a little bit more, two other themes centered on safety when it comes to technology, both during the school day, but also when students are at home. And we certainly do teach that, both how to be safe when you're on the web and how do you safely use technology, but it was a good refresher for us that we need to continue to talk about that. We need to continue to educate our students to be safe when they are using that technology. Then there was another question that centered around technology and in particular around career and tech ed. And what we heard when we talked about the different career pathways at that meeting, the theme around it is really important that students have the opportunity to explore and to be aware of some of the different pathways, because as a student enters that high school year, they don't know where they're going to end up. And the opportunity to be exposed and to take some of those courses was seen as a positive. We then need to, again, through communication, talk about the value of career and tech ed, talk about the value of those pathways, talk about how they are changing, because we need to be able to adapt to the rapidly changing world around us. And again, we need to do that as we continue through our own research in teaching and learning. The last major point was around 21st century skills, those skills of critical thinking, collaboration, creative thinking, and communication. And we asked the people who were there, what do you want to tell us about that? And we heard over and over again through the feedback that it is critical that we continue down that pathway to teach, to assess, and give feedback around those 21st century skills that not only help students in the classroom today, but will help them when they get into that world of work, to help them be prepared for that. And I think it's a positive that in our own strategic plan, that is one of the tenets that we have, that 21st century skills and that teaching is a critical part of who we are as the Fargo Public Schools. And then when we asked what advice would you give the Fargo Public Schools when it came to 21st century skills, we heard a great comment. You need to do a better job of sharing in between buildings, what one classroom is doing at North and how that can be shared at Davies, or how one classroom at an elementary level could be shared with another. So the idea of opening up that communication and using days like what we have coming up on our professional development day, when we have course-alike groups coming together, a natural way to share some of those things that are going on, the successes, also in those PLCs or professional learning community times that we have across the district. We also heard under this topic, communication with parents, and so that they have the understanding of what those 21st century skills are. Again, how can we do a better job of communicating that with our community? And then even when we came to 21st century skills, again, we heard the idea of safety when it comes to the internet, when it comes to cyberbullying, and again, how we need to really redouble our efforts in teaching and helping kids be safe. So as I look through the themes and as teaching and learning look through the themes from this, really what I saw were 3 takeaways. One, we need to continue to do what we are doing, but continue that research to say what is the next step and how can we extend many of those pieces. How does that then transition into the training and professional development that we give for our staff? And then how do we then communicate both with our staff and our community about some of the things that are going on within the Fargo Public Schools? And as teaching and learning, we looked at this, we said, really, this is a great set of marching orders for us as we build next year's operational plan to say, what are the things that we need to do differently? What are the things that we need to add to that operational plan around communication, training, and research? And I think this was a great way for us to get feedback and take that to that next step. So that's what we came up with, or we were able to pull together from the feedback from those focus groups. And I would answer any questions if you have any.
Dinah?
Not really a question, but a thank you, and it was very interesting because this focus group questions were different than they have been in the past. And it's interesting how the responses, and I had a very lively, interesting group on that evening, really have come up with these themes that you can directly do something about. You know, so often we hear things that are, you know, so far out there that really they're not actionable items, at least not in the short term. And so it's really interesting that the parents were the individuals were so engaged that you really do have some positive feedback. So have fun fulfilling that.
Rebecca?
Thank you for providing the report. And so my question was going to be, how are we going to know what the plan is? So because of all of these potential follow-ups, so to see where the follow-up will happen. And so what you're saying is we will see the plan for these follow-ups as the operational plan develops, right? And then we'll see that plan that will be presented to us. So we should feel secure in the fact that this information it's obviously being addressed and that there's going to be a plan to follow through. And that is very good. I didn't have a doubt, but I just wanted to see, or wanted to know where we would see that, you know, detail come through. So thank you.
I've sensed this focus group, and this is matching what I think I heard in my focus group definitely, and I got the same pullouts from this. Since this occurred, I have been hearing more from parents, particularly about concerns about technology and safety, and not just, they're all appreciative that we are teaching students how to be safe. What I'm hearing from parents, especially when they come to me, they're at a point of almost panic. They themselves don't know what to do at home with this. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. I think where some of this safety issue things came from as well is understanding, okay, I know my students are getting something at school, but I need to be an engaged parent, but this is all new to me as well. And so I think as you're trying to develop plans and that communication to the parents, they're wanting to know, I need to be an engaged parent, tell me how to do that. That's with that lens. Okay, thank you.
Well, it looks like that was all the questions or comments, but again, on behalf of the entire board, I want to thank you and your team. I want to thank Anne Marie and the team that put that event together, and I want to thank Dr. Schatz for actually having the vision to bring this as a regular annual event to the district. And I suspect it's a legacy that will live on long after you go horseback riding into the sunset. That gets us over to our consent agenda, which had the HR addendum added to it, and the chair would undertake a motion. Dinah?
I move that we accept the consent agenda with the additional HR addendum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries. And with that, I'd like to congratulate Jackie on being appointed our new business manager. Welcome. Gets us to our business items. Our first order of business is an annual placeholder at the first meeting in January for the board to review its current board compensation and take any potential action that we might want. I'd reference you over to memo number 67, which just kind of gives you the history of Fargo School Board members' pay. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board for any comments or motions. Linda.
I move that the board leaves its compensation at the current level for the coming year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, Anne Marie, if you'd call the roll, please.
Paulson.
Yes.
Rodenbiker.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Ani.
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries. Gets us to our second business item of the evening, and that is monitoring report EL 15. I'd reference you over to memo number 68 from the package that went out. Again, I want to thank all the board members who provided feedback, and I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we accept EL 15, Student Learning Environment and Discipline, as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or comments that anybody would care to make? Rebecca.
I just wanted to note the comment on the first item, Brandy. I know that it was your comment, and so I just wanted us to make sure that we have a discussion in regard to if this is something that you're interested in us further having discussion on at some point, that that you have the opportunity to talk about that, and that we understand how that process would happen if it's something that you feel like needs to have further conversation.
Sure. And that's in governance when we hold the conversation and correct?
Okay, does that make sense? And Jim, that's correct, right? That we could take this action at that meeting if?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And I'll just share one other thought here. Just because Jennifer's not here, she had given a suggestion that maybe with the way technology is today, instead of printing out the student conduct stuff that we hand out each fall to each student, that maybe we can now do it through PowerSchool with an electronic signature. Again, I'm not against technology, but that would assume that every parent in our school district has this technology to use. So I'm inclined to believe let's give it to them both ways, in print and electronically, for fear that if we do electronic, we may be disconnecting some of our families from that information. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on that from an administrative standpoint.
Well, I can tell you that at the secondary level, we're already doing it electronically, but we have chosen to continue to have the booklet. And so you may not have been aware of that, where you can go in and electronically submit that. I asked Bob to have a further conversation with secondary principals in particular about that, and to whether or not we still need to have the booklet. Is there something we should do differently with PowerSchool? Bill Westrick's all over it, so there will be a conversation on that, but we're moving into that more of a online type of a booklet. And we also have to make sure that that'll suffice with the requirements by DPI to have a student handbook. And so I asked Bob to check into that too from a statutorial, because that's one of the things that you have to have as a district according to their rules. So we'll look into that and make sure that if we could do something different, we'll do that.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns on EL 15? Anne Marie, will you call the roll, please?
Rodenbacher,
Yes.
Ulrich,
Yes.
Ani,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Goldenberg,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. I think we can maybe get through our board reports, or at least we'll get through some of them before we take our first break. I first of all am going to ask Anne Marie to give us an update on the Ad hoc Superintendent Search Committee, which met earlier today. And again, at your work location, you should have all seen a copy of the finalized flyer that has been produced and is in use, I believe, as of this morning. Can you give us an update, Anne Marie?
Absolutely. So yes, the Superintendent Search Ad hoc Committee did meet today at 11 o'clock and did review the process used in 2012 for the interview process, reviewed what we did there, such as what groups met with the candidates, what questions were asked, those type of things. The committee had some good brainstorming, but didn't make any decisions or move forward with anything at this time to bring to you guys. Just really work to review what we did before and brainstorm some things for this year. But as far as the position, for an update since the last time you met in December, since your December 12th meeting, both Brittany and myself have been working with Ray and Associates to get the position open for applicants to be able to apply. And as of today, that position is available through our consultant's website, Ray and Associates, to be able to apply. I'll send an email out to you probably tomorrow with where that's located and that type of thing. But that was open today. We did finalize the flyer, which Jim referenced is at your tables. That is something that they will use in their recruitment process for the position. They will use that as they go out and recruit and with their candidates that apply for information about the Fargo Public Schools. In addition, we have a website on our Fargo Public Schools website that has a lot of that same information and then directs candidates to Ray and Associates for application. And so really trying to get that information out that we are now open. The position will close on February 22nd, and then the review process will begin by the consultants to review those who apply. We have been working with Ray and Associates in addition to get ads placed in major publications and regionally as well, so that people know that they can apply. Brittany was working with them directly to make sure the application contained all the things needed for North Dakota requirements as well, and then worked with the other things that we talked about. So if anybody has any questions about that process, happy to answer those. We also worked on that timeline, which we sent out over the Christmas holidays as well as what we're looking for. One thing to make sure you have on your calendars is the March 10th date for a special board meeting with Ray and Associates to review those candidate applications. That will be a closed session for you guys to be able to look at those candidate applications and narrow them down. So that is a Saturday, and want to make sure that that is on your calendars, because that is a for certain date coming up. And then dependent upon what you guys decide there, it will depend on when we schedule either a two-part process for semifinalists and finalists, or depending on your conversations, if you just go for a one process to interview.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Chrissy, anything to report? Are you there, Christy? Yeah, I'll come back to her. Dinah?
Sorry. Since the last meeting, which seems an awfully long time ago, I had the privilege of attending the Blue Ribbon Ceremony at Longfellow. You all probably remember that they were the only school in the district this year and the first one in many years to get this designation, and it was a very fun event for the kids and for the school and so on. The Board of Health December meeting was canceled, and so there won't be a Board of Health meeting again until February. And the one thing I did, or was invited to do, which was really fun, that I think that I'll share, is that one of my son's classmates is now a teacher at Discovery. How that happens, I don't know. But she invited me to come in to their social studies class in December to talk about Hanukkah and Judaism, because that's part of their curriculum. coincidentally at this time of year. And I ended up going to the entire team, and so 4 classes of 6th graders for, the 40-odd minutes of class. Very engaged, very interesting. It was really a lot of fun. But the piece that, aside from the current thing that I thought was worth sharing, is that I used to do this when my kids were little also. And she remembered from her 2nd grade class and what an impression that had meant on her. And so I just think that these experiences that parents give to bring their cultures into the classroom and their individual experiences really do make a difference, and the kids do remember and keep that and so on. So I thought that was really very nice, and it was lots of fun. So that's all.
Thank you, Dinah. John?
Real quick, the negotiations committee met last week. We are sitting down with the Education Association this Thursday evening at 5:30. And further meetings of the committee and with the association will be determined after that point. That is it. Thank you.
No Frisco report?
Go Bison.
Brandy?
I don't have anything at this time. Thank you.
Rebecca?
I attended, well, this morning I was at the ad hoc committee meeting for the superintendent search, and so thank you all for doing a fantastic job organizing that. New Year's Eve, I was at the Fargo Civic for the powwow that was sponsored by the Native American Commission, and it's the 2nd year that I've attended that, and it's fun to be there. I was there for a couple of hours, and it's just a good, safe environment for many people. Last night, we had a Native American Commission meeting, and I can't quite remember how many they said were there. I think like around 300. What I know is that they said it was the largest in attendance that they have had. So I had intended, Dr. Schatz, to be at the Eggs and Issues presentation, and I was not feeling well, and I decided that it wouldn't be fair for me to share my bug with all of you, so I stayed home. I will be at the chamber event this week on Thursday, and a couple of things I wanted to mention regarding the Native American Commission meeting last night. 2 items that we discussed or had presentations on. One was on sex trafficking, and one person from the Gladys Ray Shelter was there, and I cannot remember the other individual that presented, but it kind of it reminded me of the information that was shared at one of the State School Board Association conferences. I don't think it was the last one, but maybe the one prior. And so, of course, the information that was shared last night, it was a much shorter presentation. It was specifically regarding statistics regarding Native Americans, but it's just, it's very important information, and it's very sad information, but it's good for us to have, and we need to figure out what we're going to be doing with it and where to go. But a good conversation was started there. And KVRR was there last evening and covered a report on the missing, murdered, and Indigenous women discussion that's been going on. That's going on nationally, but it's also going on in the state. And so KVRR has been very good to attend those meetings and provide media coverage because, as we know, when we are discussing these important topics, it can be discussed within our committee or like at our board meeting here, but if it's not taken to another level where it's reported on, it's harder for others in our community to learn about it. So I just wanted to mention that interview is out there on KVRR's website in case you want to learn more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. David?
Nothing at this time.
Linda?
I attended the Eggs and Issues. This time I got in the hot seat with the spotlight in my eyes. Thanks for a long hour. The ad hoc superintendent search group is going well. I attended that today. And I don't have any other liaison activities just to report, but I do have a report on one of our students. This past Saturday was the Young Artist Solo Competition, which is presented by Minnesota Public Radio and the Symphony, and it's for instrumental students throughout North Dakota and parts of Minnesota and South Dakota. So the winner this year was a clarinetist, Joanna Lynn from Davies High School. She's a sophomore, and she was amazing. She'll be performing with the symphony as a featured soloist on the March concerts. So that was fantastic, very inspiring.
Thank you, Linda. Christy, are you there?
I'm here, but can't really give a report right now.
Okay. Well, you don't have a copy of my president's report, but maybe we'll get it emailed to you so you'll have it. Or it's actually technically Anne Marie's president's report because she puts this all together. She did highlight already that we have a special board meeting on March 10th. Please make sure you have that on your calendar, but also make sure you have February 2nd on your calendar, which is our board retreat, winter retreat date. There is a piece of homework that is coming out to all board members from the ad hoc committee. One of the projects we have in front of us over the next 2 weeks is to really put together what are the questions we as board members will be asking each of the candidates that come into Fargo for an interview or come before us, because some of them may already be in Fargo. They may not have to get here via transportation outside of their car. So working with what we did last time around, Anne Marie and Brittany kind of updated them to make sure they were current with issues going on in the district right now. We're going to email out a copy of the current draft of questions that we're going to consider for usage by the board. I would ask you to look through those, read through them. If you see or think of a question that isn't covered, we're not asking for re-wordsmithing, so don't worry about the actual language. But if there's an area that you don't think was covered correctly and didn't see a question, please write that up and get that back to Anne Marie. I believe we're going to be meeting as an ad hoc committee 2 weeks from today, and we want to finalize the draft of the questions that the board will be participating in the interview process with, so we can bring that back to the board for our review. So again, take a look through that. You have about a week. If you don't submit something back to us, that's fine. But if you have some ideas, 1 or 2 questions that you think might be good to have on that list, please get them to Anne Marie so we can have them as a committee to work with. And that's it from the president's chair. At this point in time, I think I'll take us out on break, and just for all those in the audience, when we come back, the first thing we're going to do is go into executive session and make you all leave again. So if you would like to, and I do not believe there will be any action taken by the board once we come out of executive session, except for to adjourn our meeting. But we'll take a 10-minute stretch break and get back together at that point in time.